This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the W Debate.
Welcome to the W Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. Who jumped up and
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncourt for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out. Justin Fields hails Columbus 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herb Street ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the time zone with the most intelligent people. I don't know where I was going there. That means it's time for the W Debate, brought to you by CampusDecan.com. Austin Nace and Chris Moxley are here on a heavy-duty version of tonight's show. We actually have a very special announcement. We discuss breakouts in college football in 2023, and Chris breaks down his love affair with tight ends. But it's June 1st, or June 1st is tomorrow. So summer is officially right around the corner. I think it's like the 21st or something like that. I want to know both of your hottest takes in C2C, CFF, college football in general. Austin, I know this is a struggle for you. Give me your hottest take for 2023.
When you guys demand that I bring out the flamethrower, I'm happy to do it. I actually feel like I'm repressed a little bit on this show. Like you guys won't let me reach inside this part of myself. So I think the ones that I put down are actually hotter than what either of you guys put down. I'll start with just a general college football one. I think USC loses at least 2 games this year and doesn't even get close to the playoff. They might even lose 3 games. It's not that the schedule is that hard. I just don't think they're going to be that good. I don't think the defense has gotten any better. I actually think the wide receiver room, the freshmen are really promising, but they're not there yet. I actually think this is a worse wide receiver room than they had last year. I think they're going to struggle a little bit at times. Without Jordan Addison, there's no real alpha there. I am not a Dorian Singer guy at all. I don't think he's that talented. I don't think he's a USC quality player. I think it's very similar to when Taj Washington transferred there from Memphis a few years ago and kind of got washed out a little bit. So, yeah, I think USC really, really struggles. I think betting on them to make the playoff or really get close to that's just flushing money down the toilet.
Before you go on, what's your problem with Dorian Singer? Because he is a hot name right now.
I don't think he has any particular skill that is plus, you know. He does some things okay. I don't think he's an amazing athlete. I don't think he's an amazing separator. He's not strong at the catch point. Like he's kind of a college possession wide receiver, which is okay. But I just don't see like any sort of guy that's going to go out there and really transform an offense or even like I don't even really think you worry about him. Like you're not going to shade coverage his way. Like he's just a guy. I think he benefited a lot from Cowling and McMillan last year. I think he's the biggest a guy that I just don't really understand where the hype is coming from this offseason beyond just the fact that he went from Arizona to USC. So that means he must be good.
if you're box score scouting, you might really like Dorian Singer and the thought that he's going to USC. But if you actually watch him play, you don't see a lot of space between the defender, him, and the catch point once he actually gets the ball. So problematic, because if you're going to be covered in college, then you're going to be covered in the NFL. The guys that can kind of get away with that are athletic freaks. I think of George Pickens from a few years ago. An athletic freak can probably get away with playing that game. I don't know that Dorian Singer meets that mold. He's a walk-on at Arizona, so probably not an athletic freak. Moxley, welcome to the show. Give me one of your hot takes for 2023.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few. I think LSU might win the SEC. I think they are a better team than Alabama heading into the 2023 season. And I think all they have to do is beat Georgia. And I think this is the down year. And I say that in like quotations because Georgia is always Georgia. But I think this could be the down year for Georgia. So I think LSU plus 500 is a good value when we're talking about them winning the SEC. And I think they can do so.
Felix is muted. Good stuff.
Okay, I'm glad that wasn't just me. I thought that was me, and
I missed the mic that had the button that you could hear him hit it. So
it was like
now he's secretive with how he needs himself.
Austin, you looked at all of the takes that we have here, and I don't know how you don't figure my first one here as a hot take, because I've been mocked and ridiculed since November 2020 when we started this show, and I started touting one Michael Penix Jr. when he was still at Indiana. My hot take for 2023.
Two knees later.
2 knees later, one full healthy season in 2022, played all 13 games. He is going to be a late first-round draft pick. According to CFB winning.
Wait, time out. Late first-round draft pick in what?
in the 2024 NFL draft. A late first-round draft pick in the 2024 NFL draft. They're 11-2 in 2022. They returned 76% of their offense production. They have a 9th-ranked roster strength rating. Their EPA per play ranks 4th in FBS. If you're looking at the 2024 quarterback class, you have established dudes in Caleb Williams and probably Drake May. Who is the number 3? Is it going to be Bo Nix? Is it going to be Quinn Ewers? Michael Penix Jr. has shown more than Quinn Ewers to this point. Now, I think that if he puts together, and we just saw Kenny Pickett get taken with a first-round draft pick after being a fifth-year senior. Michael Penix Jr. that left arm is a rocket left arm. And I love the mentality that he plays with. He was really well protected at Washington last year. But when he was at Indiana, he was not well protected. He was running for his life and sliding around in the pocket and getting punched in the face. As a matter of fact, I posted some clips where he is delivering the ball downfield with traffic and muck around his legs or actually getting hit in the face. I remember there's a drive late in that Penn State game in 2020 or 2021 that they won where, he's getting like blitzing linebackers, hitting him right in the face, and he's delivering the ball downfield. I think that coaches are going to like his style of play. Someone who can get chunk plays, someone who is courageous in the pocket. I can see him being a fit for a team like the Detroit Lions if Dan Campbell is running the draft room, but it's Brad Holmes. Or the New England Patriots, a team like that. It's who is a little bit unconventional. I think that he's going to be a late first-round draft pick. And here we go. Your boy will have done it again, shooting from deep to get a first-round quarterback. That's my take for 2023.
Have you learned nothing? You are the Carson Strong
and I know
and Howell
guy. I thought about making the comparison to Carson Strong, but Carson Strong played
the medicals are going to be so bad.
He played in G5. No, we've had people that tear their ACL more than once. Carson Strong.
How many quarterbacks have torn their ACL more than once and gone the first round?
Carson Strong looked slow and like he was injured when he was playing the quarterback position. Michael Penix.
Carson Strong ran in cement when he was 100% healthy.
Michael Penix Jr. does not. he still runs on occasion. Will pick up yards, and he navigates the pocket well. He's a dynamic downfield gunslinger who is fearless, and I think that there's going to be a GM and a set of coaches that really like that. He's going to get drafted at the end of the first round next year.
Okay, Nito. Here's the deal. So last year, I said that Will Levis would, if he was the first round pick, I would get a tattoo. And the odds went against me. DraftKings, FanDuel, you name your book, they did it. They said that Will Levis was going to be a top 5 pick, minus 5,000. It didn't matter. Real recognized real. I'm going to do the same thing for Michael Penix right now. Same tattoo bet.
Oh, you got to get my face. You can get my face tattooed.
I will get if Michael Penix goes in the first round, I will get Felix's face tattooed on my body. Period. You quote this. You can do whatever you want with this audio, video, whatever. I will do it. Michael Penix is not going the first round. I don't give a crap about how good his arm is. The dude has massive injury concerns and is playing in a substantially friendly quarterback system.
He is a very skilled player, though. He is a very skilled player. Austin, give us another one of your hot takes for 2023.
Oh, here's a hot take. I don't know that Penix is a better prospect than a healthy Hendon Hooker would have been going into last year's draft.
He would not be.
I don't think so. So, there's that for you. How about my other one? Okay, I gotta choose. I have some hot ones on here. How about this one? Phil Maffa outrushes Will Shipley this year for Clemson.
Is Eric Froton in this? Do you see Eric Froton in this room tonight?
If I blink, he's in the background here with me. Shipley outgains on total scrimmage yards, though. I think that's an interesting needle to thread. I could definitely see that happening. Maffa's been just as efficient, if not more efficient, most of the time rushing the football. But I still think Shipley will have a role. But I think as the season goes on, Maffa starts to, I don't want to say dominate, but definitely absorbs a good amount of Shipley's role on the ground. I think they'll still have a role to play. And I think they'll want to keep both of them kind of split because they don't have anything behind that duo at all. So you can't run Shipley 25 times and give him 5 targets a game. Like he will break down, and then it will just be Maffa and a bunch of untested, low 3-star freshmen.
That is why I think this is a lukewarm take, because Will Shipley should be used 8 receptions a game and get 8 to 10 carries. Phil Maffa should be carrying the load. He should be the guy that you're running in between the tackles. He is built like, if there's a Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, it's Phil Maffa is Javonte Williams, and Will Shipley is the Michael Carter of these two. So you're going back to your lukewarm tendencies, in my opinion, with that one. But I know that there's the hype around Shipley. But I think Phil Maffa is a very good player and might even be the better NFL running back.
I don't know that Shipley does anything amazingly or I don't know that Maffa does anything amazingly.
Or did I freeze? Okay. Go ahead,
Thank
Chris.
you. All I was going to say was I actually agree with Austin. I think that's actually a really interesting take and probably one that I agree with. Maffa, I basically come to the point where I think Maffa is a better rusher. And I don't think that's like a hot take, but it is a hot take. It's not like a spicy meatball take. It's more of a lukewarm take, but it's still a hot take.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Well, you're wearing my my favorite shirt from home field tonight, so I appreciate it.
I had to.
Give us another one of yours, Mox.
What do I want to give y'all?
Here, or I can go here. I can go because I've got one ready. And I think Brandon Inniss or Carnell Tate, one of them will be a year 1-0. If you look at the makeup of this wide receiver core. Marvin Harrison Jr. last year played 84% of snaps. Emeka Egbuka played 77% of snaps. And remember, that's with Jackson Smith and Jigba, kind of coming in and out of the lineup. I think that his snap percentage is going to be up into the mid 80s or higher than that. Julian Fleming, if he's healthy, he's probably going to be right there. Now, if he's not, that's the spot where someone's going to get in. But Jalen Ballard is still there. Xavier Johnson is still there. If he's not playing running back, he's playing wide receiver. I think they will give some deference to the senior that, quite frankly, kept them out of a bind last year, playing as unselfishly as he did last season. I think that Ryan Day is going to reward him for that. So then who's next up? Is it Jalen Ballard? Is it Keon Grays? He's still there. No, let's not even forget Noah Rogers is going to be coming on. Brandon Ennis wasn't there for the spring. One of these guys who's going at the end of first rounds and freshman and supplemental drafts is going to be a year 1-0. And Noah Rogers is probably locked in to be a year 1-0. So I don't know if that's necessarily a hot take, but after all of the buzz that we've heard from Tate, and I think Ennis is the higher ranked wide receiver according to the services, one of them is going to be a year 1-0. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. came very, very close to being a year 1-0 himself before he broke out in the Rose Bowl game against Micah Bernard playing corner against him. Oh, no, Micah Bernard was playing corner against Jackson Smith and Jigba. But they still had other running backs playing corner in that game. So I think that one of those two is going to be a year 1-0, and their value is going to take a massive drop this season. And I kind of think that it's going to be Ennis. I think that Carnell Tate will get some of the reps on the outside in place of Julian Fleming. I think it's going to be Ballard and Tate if Julian Fleming goes down with any injury.
I don't think that's that hot of a take. I mean, overall, I think the odds are,
what would you rate it
awful.
on the Scoville scale? Mild, hot.
Yeah, it's somewhere above mild, but I wouldn't call it hot. If you want to talk year 1-0s, I think a guy that I actually saw you talking earlier with somebody, Felix, I think Jurian Dickey has a pretty high chance of being a year 1-0 at Oregon.
So too. Yeah.
I think that Gary Bryant transfer in hurts a lot.
Oh,
I know, but I think Bryant's going to play a decent amount. I think Tej Johnson's going to play a decent amount. I think Troy Franklin's going to play a decent amount. I think Chris Hudson's going to play a decent amount. I don't know if there's going to be that many snaps around for Dickey. I think he's a guy that I'm worried about.
So the year 1-0 theory, which Austin, you and I have kind of done more research into. For high-end teams, I think the differentiator is essentially how well a player performs in practice, right? If they are a hard worker or they are achieving above and beyond, in the practice sense, I think that they are getting on the field. They are doing really well. And a lot of it is what's happening in practice. And so I wonder if, even if we think that, these guys are blocked and whatever, if they're getting in blowouts, that's kind of the path for a lot of these guys in year one. And it basically boils down to you are being a good practice player and you're getting on the field in blowouts to reward you for, your excellent play and hard work in practice. And but that is an indicator. That is truly an indicator in players that we want to perform well and that are working hard. They're being rewarded. And so I wonder if Jurian Dickey and some of these Ohio State wide receivers are falling into the same category. And I don't know them specifically, so I don't know how they're performing, but you would think that that is the avenue for them to excel.
Oh, it has to be. Yeah.
They have to be hard workers. And if they don't, then you're probably dealing with players who have more questions than, you want to address head on.
Jerrion Dickey is also dealing with an injury, so I don't think that he participated in the spring. But I went back and watched him again. I mean, he was from just a pure football standpoint, he was a player that I was very impressed with. You'll see him play corner wherever it is that he was playing. You'll see him play safety. You'll see him block people into the ground. You'll see him take drag routes and then kind of shed a tackler. I don't know. Is A.J. Brown his comp on 24/7? That makes a lot of sense to me given his size and frame.
Yeah.
And but I think I don't know that he is a higher end possession wide receiver. I don't know that Jerrion Dickey is going to have blazing speed. It's not like he's going to get on the field because he can just catch a pass and take it to the house. At least at this point in his development, I don't really necessarily see that in his game. But you wouldn't expect it for a 6'2", 215-pound physical wide receiver that he is. A guy who could probably play safety in college, probably play, some sort of linebacker position, honestly, if he wanted to. So, and it's not like that Oregon wide receiver core is hurting for depth. So I agree with that. I got one more here, and I don't know if this is necessarily a hot take. I cannot remember if we talked about this on this show or on the Better Sports show. But I know that we've talked about Carson Beck a lot, and we are talking about breakouts in 2023. I'm not even going to mention Carson Beck because I'm going to mention him here. I think he's like the best, if you are a betting person, like the best future or Heisman future is Carson Beck. I got their, first of all, they're going to be in positive game scripts all year. They understand that speed is the best complement to the running game, and they're going to want to pound the rock. He's going to be a super efficient player in 2023. Super efficient. I mean, Brock Bowers is a deep threat in the middle of the field. They got Ra Thomas who can beat you. And if Arian Smith is healthy, that's a big if. If Arian Smith is healthy.
The fastest player in the SEC.
Fastest player in the SEC. Tell me which one of these games are going to lose. UT Martin. Ball State.
No, the answer is none. I don't even need to hear it. There is not a projected loss on the Georgia schedule.
Well, Chris, not everybody knows Georgia's schedule, but they have a very favorable schedule. So here we go. UT Martin, Ball State, South Carolina, UAB. They're going to win all of those games by 21 points or more. Auburn, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. I mean, I still think they're going to win most of these games by 14 points or more. They have Florida. Florida is probably is on a downward trend. Missouri, Ole Miss, at Tennessee, and at Georgia Tech. The at Tennessee game is the one that causes you concern towards the end of the year. But, I mean, when you look at their schedule, this is a team that's going to roll through their schedule. They're going to be the number one ranked team in the country, and Carson Beck is going to have a super efficient year on this team. Give me all the Carson Beck Heisman Trophy futures that you can get. Because he's definitely going to be there in New York sitting down. It's just a matter of whether, it's Caleb Williams or Carson Beck. And I would put my money on Carson Beck, given that, Austin, you just said you think USC is going to lose 2 games. They're not going to give the Heisman Trophy winner to Caleb Williams if they lose 2 games. I think it's going to be Carson Beck who wins the Heisman Trophy.
You got 20-1 odds right now.
Oh, it was plus 1,700, wasn't it?
I mean, I'm looking at plus 2,000 on DraftKings currently. But I mean, we posted articles on Cam Scanton 3 months ago, talking about why he was a great value when he was like plus 8,000. So I don't disagree. I mean, I think it's a really good upside bet.
There we go.
I don't have strong thoughts on Beck either way. I mean, I think I've kind of talked about it on the show before. I'm just not sure that he has the type of season. Like, I just don't know that they'll need to rely on him really at any point, which is going to potentially be an issue.
Do you think he's better than Stetson Bennett?
I think he could be better than Stetson Bennett. I think he could definitely have better weapons than Stetson.
See, I think he like definitely is. Like, so, like that is even.
You look at who caught the ball. You look at who caught the ball for Georgia last year. Darnell Washington, Brock Bowers, Marcus Rosemead, Jack Saint. There are players. Ladd McConkey. There are players who can do more with the ball in their hands. Arian Smith Dominic Lovett, Ra Thomas. Like, I would even put who's the tight Oscar Delp. Like, these are more explosive players. And yes, I am sleeping on Ladd McConkey to be honest, but maybe not. I think that
a white wide receiver.
Wes Welker type.
Blake says don't sleep on McConkey either. I think McConkey's more explosive than that level of player, for the record. I actually think he's an NFL player. Like, I think he'll be fine in the NFL. I'm not saying he's going to be a star, but really even a guy that you want.
McConkey is an NFL wide receiver 3, right?
Yeah, on a
like
team,
I agree with you. Like,
I think he can be an NFL team's wide receiver 3. Yeah. I don't think he's a bad player at all. And you know who actually I think could be the next Ladd McConkey, and I don't have it on my hot takes here. It wouldn't shock me at all if Cole Adams ends up being the best wide receiver from this Alabama freshman class. He's like a similar player to McConkey. I think he was too lowly ranked. I don't think he's ever going to be special, but there's a likelihood of him hanging around there for like 2 years and then getting okay.
I mean, McConkey was a wide receiver or a 3-star recruit, right?
He was very lowly rated. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's a good player. Like, you watch Ladd McConkey and you're like, oh, this dude is just a scrub. And turns out like he's not that bad.
Our CFF guys make fun of me, but yeah, I think he's a legitimate NFL player.
Maybe I need to go back and watch some Ladd McConkey tape.
Maybe you do.
I'm going to talk about Georgia a little bit more. But why would they get those 2 transfers in if Ladd McConkey was that dude? So, all right. Any other hot takes? I think we're done here.
I just have 2 honorable mentions real quick. I think Jonte Cook goes over 700 yards receiving this year. I think he takes over either the slot or they move Worthy to the slot and he takes a boundary position at some point this season. Not because he's like better than Worthy, just depending on how they want to line.
Were you saying he's better than Whittington?
Yes, I think he's better than Whittington. I think that's
day one.
Probably knows that already too. I think they'll give a little bit of deference to Whittington to start off the season. But yeah, I think Cook will step in there. Then my other one, Harrison Agbuka gone after the year. I think by the end of the season, Antonio Williams is the consensus Devy wide receiver 1. I think he's going to have a really good year. And I think he's going to show a super, super versatile skill set. Like he is, and not to like say that he's going to be this good of a player, but like skill set wise, he is kind of Justin Jefferson-ish in the sense that he probably can play a little all over the place. They're probably going to line up in the slot because they got a bunch of giants on the outside, much like Jefferson was at LSU. But he's like 6 foot, 185, 190. Like he's not a tiny stick figure guy. And I think he's going to show some, working deep chops this year. He's really good after the catch. We've already seen him do that. I think he's a really, really good player. I get higher and higher on him all the time. And he's bigger than Evan Stewart.
Yeah. He is.
And I think he's more explosive than Luther Burton. The only guy that can sneak in there above him is Barry Brown. I just think like he's a little too raw for me to say that he would ever be the Devy wide receiver 1, unless he just like totally blows up this year.
Yeah, Barry Brown.
If Antonio Williams is going to have an excellent season, don't you have to tout Cade Klubnik also?
Not necessarily. We've had pretty good guys have really good wide receiver seasons. I mean, look at Quentin Johnston had a pretty good season last year, air quotes. So, and his Max Duggan went undrafted. So I don't necessarily think so.
Max Duggan went undrafted, but he was a Heisman Trophy finalist.
That's true.
I mean,
that's true. I kind of chose that pairing since their offense coordinator is now Klubnik's offense coordinator.
That's true.
Yeah,
very true.
True. All right, I got 2 that I actually want to bring out.
Are they on the sheet?
They are on the sheet.
Okay.
Michael Pratt is the NFL media's surprise first-round quarterback. I think that
that would be crazy.
No, but it wouldn't, because he's essentially like G5 Will Levis. Like he
is.
He like that is.
Coolsy?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. I really do think he is. I think the NFL will be like, oh, he's a surprise first rounder. Like you'll see him mocked. I think in the top 15 more often than not, and then he'll go like round 3 or whatever. But he is going to be the surprise quarterback that emerges like post college football season.
If they had pulled off that upset against Oklahoma, and then he had Oklahoma and USC under his belt, I think I could have been like, and if he would have transferred, where was he supposed to transfer? Was it Auburn that he was going to transfer to allegedly? Or Florida.
I heard many different schools wanted him. Like he was probably the hottest non-transfer player in the non-transfer portal. Like he would have been an SEC quarterback if he wanted to be.
Yeah,
like he's that good. Like he could be a high end.
That would be. I don't know that he's better than Devin Leary as like another guy. Like I don't know that he is.
Oh, he's better than Devin. You don't think he's better than Devin Leary? I really do think he is.
Better. Yeah, he
has tools wise, he's definitely better than him.
Maybe I need to go rewatch Michael Pratt because I don't think he's a bad player or anything. But you guys are talking like this guy's got a freaking bazooka, and like I've never seen this.
He does. He has a really good arm.
Yeah, he has one of the 10 strongest arms in the country.
I don't think it's bad. I've never watched him and thought like, wow, what a freaking.
You gotta. All right, so we've established that Austin needs to rewatch Michael Pratt.
Apparently. He's also going to be a 4-year starter. Started as a true freshman. And has kind of put Tulane on the map.
Bill Parcells would have loved him.
Yeah. I really think Michael Pratt is going to be the player that the NFL media gravitates towards and says, hey, like this dude could be a first rounder. I don't know that he's going to get there, but like he has the tools to potentially be that. His mechanics are really wonky and whatnot. There's a lot of reasons why he
improved a lot. I mean, raise your hand if
he did. He like last year was
his freshman year. Raise your hand if you were tweeting about his feet his freshman year.
Calm down, Rex Ryan.
I have been a long time Michael Pratt fan, so I think that he improved last year, but he needs to still take a big step forward. And then my last hot take was that Texas, I think, is actually back this year. I legitimately think that Texas is back. Then they'll be Alabama.
I don't know that you can give me 5 coaches' names that I'd rather have than Steve Sarkisian as my head coach. We are 32 minutes into the show and have a fairly sizable announcement. As far as placement of this advertisement, we have done a terrible job. Should have been in the first. We probably should have done this in the first, 10 minutes or so. But Austin, let me hand the floor off to you.
Yeah, whoever did the show sheet, just terrible job. We are now partnered with Home Field Apparel, guys. You may have heard of them, the plucky little company from Indianapolis.
Give it up. We've wanted this for years and years.
Yes, we are very excited to be working with them. If you're not familiar with them, they are a really cool company that specializes in college athletic apparel, t-shirts, sweatshirts, sweatpants, like long sleeves. They've expanded their collection a little bit over the past year or so. And it's all like vintage designs, like, really old logos that schools have used.
Basically, it's really cool shit that you can get for any team, almost any team in the country.
And they're always adding. I think this week they actually added Tulane and some another school too.
Yeah, Tulane added new stuff. Florida added new stuff. I mean, always expanding. Like, Austin, you're wearing.
Mm-hmm. You done?
Like
cutting people off? You done?
Let him do the promo, Chris. We need to say magic words at least 3 times. We're awful at this. We are terrible at this.
Sorry.
We have a promo code with Home Field now. It is our name, Campus 2 Canton, the number 2 in the middle. Get you 50% off your order.
Promo code Campus to Canton. Promo code Campus to Canton. Chris Moxley. Chris, what's the promo code?
Campus number 2 Canton.
All right. So here's what we're going to do here for the first month of our partnership. Through the end of June, 30 days in June, we are doing a giveaway for members who use our promo code for a purchase. So send us a receipt with proof that you used it. I've already received 2. I know it shows it at the very end that you used our promo code. Send it to us by June 30th. You're entered to win a copy of all of our guides for this year. So that's CFF, Freshman Supplemental, and Devi. And then if you're an NIL member, we're actually going to do a different prize for you guys because you guys already get all the guides. So we'll have some more information for that on that for you guys in the next few days. But yeah, thank you guys as always for continuing to work with us. We're excited to work with Home Field. We only work with companies that we think are awesome, and we think Home Field. I mean, I'm wearing my Surf's Up UC Irvine shirt right now. It's got an Anteater surfing on it. I mean, what more could you want?
Okay,
all of this and more.
Austin stays in the middle emotionally. I'm the dramatic one. Chris can sometimes get animated with me, but this is something that we've wanted for a long time. We've
a long
time, and we've got it now. If you don't go to Home Field Apparel right now, I don't care if you listen to it. If you're in your car, pull over and go to Home Field Apparel right now, and I want you to buy at least $1,000. No, I'm just playing. Go buy something at homefieldapparel.com and use our promo code Campus2 Canton. Chris Moxley, what is the promo code at Home Field Apparel?
Campus number 2 Canton.
We are partners with Home Field Apparel. That is really cool for our brand. You've made it, Austin. You've made it.
We did it.
Okay. Another housekeeping issue. The CFF guide pre-order is going to be available by the time that you listen to it. I will put a link to the pre-order in the podcast description for the show. So you can go to campus2canton.com, pre-order the CFF guide that will be available July 1st. To be honest with you, the CFF guide is probably the one that I use the most in supplemental drafts because you get to the 8th round and all these Debbie guys are gone, and you're like, who do I take now? You're going to want to get the CFF guide, $20, or you could be an NIL subscriber, $79.99 for the year. You get all 3 guides, the Debbie guide, the freshman and supplemental guide, and the CFF guide for free. That's like 700 pages worth of content plus all of the tools available at the website. The charting tools, the IDP tool, the draft prognosticating tool, the athletic comparison tool, the rushing yards over expected tool. I've even lost track of what's available at the website. $79.99 for the year. If there is a better value in the fantasy space anywhere, then you can DM me at Sharp Review and show it to me. There isn't. All right, Chris Moxley. We wrote an article at the website. It was published today on your love for tight ends, specifically why there is such a positional advantage when you prioritize that position. Give us a little, you're the tight end guy. Give us a little summary or some takeaways from what you wrote today.
Yeah, essentially the article is a love letter to the position because I believe, and the data plays it out as well, that tight end compared to wide receiver and running back is the single most important position to invest in from a high-end perspective. And they're also more predictable than those positions as well. And having a top tight end is worth almost double-digit points over, half your league mates. And so I think that the article kind of explains why and essentially how we reach that conclusion, which is, tight end is the singular most important position when we talk about value over replacement. And I think, I've always felt that way. And I really want to get it essentially on paper for Campus Canton and CFF leagues. And so the data plays it out as well, that 9 to 10 points is basically the difference between a top 3 tight end and when you punt the position, which is 12 to 24th in tight end finishes.
I was upset when I read this article, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I wanted to know the names. Okay, you love the position. Tell me who I should draft, Chris Moxley. You didn't do that in the article. You just talked about Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. I'm like, well, can't draft them now. So tell me who we should be taking I mean, I guess you could draft him you could draft Brock Bowers if you're in a startup, but you can't in most of the leagues that have been going on for a little while. Chris Moxley, you didn't do it then. Do it now. Tell us who we should draft.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Bowers. I mean, I'm not like surprising anybody by that name. I will. So part of the article was highlighting teams who have heavily utilized the tight end position. So Iowa is a great example. They brought in Eric Gall from Michigan, who I think has really good chemistry with Caden McNamara, who's going to be a starting quarterback. But they also have Luke Lachey, and I think he's a good player. Utah as well. Bray Kuthi is a very hot name, but I am not sleeping on Thomas Yasmin either. He was a player who has a rugby background and didn't play tight end until 2018. Didn't play football until 2018. I think that he's really good. He was one of two players who had a multiple 60-plus yard receptions last year, him and Brock Bowers. Like there are a couple players, George Takis, a player at Boston College, who Jeff Hafley has heavily utilized tight end. He's a transfer in from Notre Dame, very athletic player. Trayton Welch at Wyoming, Eurosec, who is a popular name as well at Stanford. Like all of these guys are players that I would target based on kind of the criteria that I laid out in the article.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. I should have given us that in the article.
Okay, well I did, but you got to read the whole thing to kind of reach that conclusion.
All right. I think we're ready for our breakouts for 2023. This is like, I don't know that this is flag plants. I don't know if this is like my guys. This is it's I think in the NFL, it can be harder to predict breakouts because you don't know when a guy is going to pop. In college football, because so many positions are vacated every single year, it can be easier just to know the names and who's the next guy up. So let's start at the quarterback position. Austin, I guess I'll start with you. Who's going to break out in 2023 at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I wrote a couple names down. I won't talk about Preston Stone. I'll leave that one for Chris because he also put him down, and you can
talk about him. He's my third.
But I do think that Stone is legitimately one of the last guys from his class. This is his third year in college that still has legitimate unknown Debbie upside, and I don't think people are baking that into his current cost. I think they're just treating him as if he's just Tanner Mordecai again, and I think we don't know that yet. I think there's a decent chance that he is better than Mordecai. So overall, I really like him. Clay Millen, I think he is like the classic post-type sleeper at this point. That offensive line cannot be any worse at Colorado State this year. And that's what really screwed him last year. He was just under pressure all the time. They've improved the line. Still not going to be amazing, but it'll be better. I think they have some okay weapons around him. I think Colorado State, they're not going to be an 8 or 9 win team, but I think they'll be like average, and I think you'll have statistically be much better. And then my bonus here.
For someone paying attention for the first time, Austin, you've been touting Clay Millen since his freshman year, just like Jalen McMillan and Roma Dunze, those two. And it hasn't come to pass yet, but you've been talking about Clay Millen for 3 years since he was at Nevada. Mm-hmm. Where is Dante Wright? Is Dante Wright still around somewhere?
Temple.
Oh.
He's like wide receiver 4 at Temple, by the way. Okay. Not a starter.
I don't know what happened to him because he was like legitimately good as a freshman. Good. Like he looked like Brandon Cooks. Like that's the role that he played. Like I don't know what happened to him. Honorable mention. I think we get at least one start this year from Jaden Rashada at Arizona State and one start from Brady Drugish at Cincy. I think we get a start from both of them. Both true freshmen. Both, I think, probably the future of the position at their respective programs. I think the quarterback situation ahead of both of them is muddy enough / the team will be bad enough that I think they each get a start at the end of the year to see what they can do.
Chris Moxley, your breakouts for 2023 at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I had Preston Stone on mine, but I think Austin kind of nailed the analysis there. Like, I think that he could be a really good player for SMU. So I don't want to, beat beat a dead horse. But the other two I have is Taylor Green, who's the quarterback at Boise State. I mean, he is basically a size, athleticism, like marvel at the position. I'm actually surprised Boise State got him in, considering how like big and athletic he is. But he was really good last year, and I expect him to build on that this year and, improve his passing. And, we already saw him be a incredibly dynamic rusher. So, if he improves, I think he could be a legit breakout player. I really like Justin Lamson as well. He transferred in to Stanford from Syracuse. I thought he could, if he did not get injured a year ago, that he could have beaten Garrett Schrader for the job. And he looked really good in spring. And I just think that he could do something at Stanford. What that something is, I don't know, but he is a good player. And so what that turns out to be, we'll see. But Justin Lamson's a good player. And, I think he's gonna be all right, but we're reaching deep with Lamson. But Taylor Green is a player that I think can definitely be a fun name.
The 2022 Mountain West Championship between Fresno State and Boise State was a really good game. Of course, Jake Haener, my boy, in that game, but you get to watch the development of Taylor Green in that one also. So if it's available, the full game is available, and you're bored during the summer, I definitely recommend going and watching that Mountain West Championship game. My quarterbacks here, a name that I have not said in a long time, and that's Mason Garcia, who's taking over another. I think is Mason Garcia a lefty? I don't remember. Anyway, he's a huge quarterback, 6'4", 240 pounds. He played in that All-Star game in North and South Carolina. They have an All-Star game with the Biletnikoff Award winner last year, Jalen Hyatt. Toolsy in high school, although, not necessarily mechanically sound. He played a game against Navy his freshman year, looked awful, looked like a fullback playing the quarterback position. It's been 2 years since then now. I think he still remains the highest rated recruit that East Carolina has ever gotten. And now with Holton Naylor's gone, he is the unquestioned starter. But I think you got Marlon Gunn there, but I think that he's the highest rated recruit that he was a 4-star. Mason Garcia was a 4-star.
Yeah, he was.
Mason Garcia was a 4-star.
I don't know if he's the highest player they've ever gotten or not, but he's probably the highest rated QB. If I would,
and I don't know if he's the unquestioned starter for what it's worth. But
really? Well, I think that he can be an addition in the running game, and he has a strong arm. He's just not necessarily coordinated, but he's been a player that I've been tracking. I was so anxious to see him, and then I saw him his freshman year, and he looked absolutely awful. So, but a player who can have a breakout in 2022. Because I'm being lazy, my other breakout is one Drew Aller. He remains right there with Dante Moore as the best quarterback that I've evaluated since we've started doing this publicly for folks. I think that he is the perfect combination of power and grace, meaning he has a cannon for an arm, but he doesn't always use it when it's necessary. He's a great anticipatory passer. By that, I mean the ball is in the air and a wide receiver hasn't looked for it. He's throwing it into a window that he expects the wide receiver to break into. If you're doing that as a high school player, I just think you are really, really ahead of the curve, because a lot of high school players see it before they throw it. And he has looked excellent in the spurts that we've seen him at Penn State. I think he played against Ohio and he played against Purdue. And in those games, he's picking up chunk plays. I think he's going to be a chunk player to get chunk passes at Penn State. And he's quarterback 3 after Drake May and Caleb Williams leaves. If everything goes to plan, he will be my quarterback 1 in C2Cs starting in 2024. Nick Singleton is already my running back 1. So I think Penn State has an excellent backfield there. They're going to be there for at least one more year. But as far as, there's not really a player that I want to see more in 2023 than Drew Aller, because I think he's going to be a fun player to watch and like a certified number 1 overall pick. We're going to see it in 2020 in this coming season in 2023, and he'll be the 2025 number 1 overall pick in my opinion. So those are my breakouts for the quarterback position.
I think Penn State's done him a really big disservice because that wide receiver room stinks.
I've heard you mention
I
that.
worry a little bit about that. Like
he looked. I mean, he looked horrendous in their spring game. And I mean, I don't want to say it's all him, but like they didn't do any favors as well. Like
he also looked horrendous in that Under Armour All-American game, if you remember correctly.
Yeah, he did.
When we saw him in game,
he looked horrible.
In the in-game action, he looked excellent. So maybe
he looked horrible in their spring game last year too. He could just be one of those guys. Like honestly, I was kind of like that as a player. Like I never practiced that well, and you just put me in a game, and I was significantly better. There are players like that. I'm sure Stevie Johnson was probably one of those guys, considering that dude was the freaking wild card. But there are players like that.
I thought the game that Aller had against Ohio was like considering he was a true freshman, it was spectacular.
It was also
just like
Ohio.
some throws he made were like
he's a kid
high-end
field for the first time. They were high-end throws down the field, and moving in a pocket. He's a bigger player, kind of a lumberer, but he still can move for his size.
His high-end comp is Josh Allen.
I think it's Big Ben.
I see. I think he's more athletic. But
I don't think he runs.
I mean,
young Big Ben was a good mover, but he wasn't Josh Allen. Josh Allen is like in a different tier of mover. I don't think
Josh Allen's comp is like Cam Newton, and I agree that Drew Aller does not have like a Cam Newton big slow guy, big moving slow guy, because Cam Newton wasn't fast. He could just move well for his size. So can Josh Allen. I don't know that you're going to count on Drew Aller getting you 500-600 yards on the ground. Let's move here to the running back position. Austin, give me your breakouts in 2023 at the running back position.
Yeah, Chris's list is so good, and it has some of the guys that I kind of have tentatively circled places. But I wrote down Kedrick Riscano, the freshman at Ole Miss. I think by week, 6, 7, he's the unquestioned RB2 at Ole Miss. They're probably going to run a lot this year just based on how that team is currently set up. Could legitimately be a guy that catches 15, 20 passes. It's a true freshman, splitting time with Quinshawn. Honorable mentions for this one. I put down Jordan James at Oregon. I think he is clearly the second best back. He might even be the first best back. I don't think Bucky Irving's anything special. But I think he'll play a little bit this year. And then Dylan Johnson at Washington is a guy that I think could have a really good year.
Is that Mississippi State's Dylan Johnson?
Yeah, Mississippi State Dylan Johnson. They lose their starting running back from last year, Wayne T. Not going to try to pronounce it because it'll be awful. They do bring back their second and third leading rushers, Richard Newton, and I forget who the other guy is, but neither of them are like anything good. I think Johnson is probably pretty clearly the best back on that roster. So I think he'll have a pretty good year this year too. And he could, there's a scenario in which he is like a top 15 CFF back this year if he just takes that job from day one. That really is. I think he's a guy that upside is not baked into his current cost at all.
Moxis, your list was so good. Give us your breakout running back list.
Yeah, I mean, I have a handful. Tamorian TJ Harden at UCLA. He seems to have seized the RB1 job over Carson Steele, and I feel like nobody's acknowledging this. All of the beat writers basically said he was the best back in spring and that he's going to be the lead back. What that means is probably up in the air. It's probably closer to committee, but TJ Harden is a player that I think could be a really productive, asset for teams in 2023. Damon Claiborne at Wake Forest, I think he's the best back there. I don't know how much they're going to throw, but it's pretty obvious to me that he, based on spring reports, is like the guy, like a player who's incredibly explosive. He might need to transfer away from Wake Forest the same way that Walker did to like actually realize his upside. But I mean, the way they talk about him is like in the same vein of a player who really can like change an offense. And I just don't think he's going to do that at Wake Forest. But Marlon Gunn, another ECU player who is going to step in for this offense, and I think he'll be the main. I think he'll be the main option. This offense it's missing so many key players. With Keaton Mitchell out at running back and Hohenoller's at quarterback. We just don't know what it's going to look like, but I really do think Marlon Gunn is going to be a key contributor. And then Nathan Carter at Michigan State. He's a transfer in from Connecticut, and I think he's going to be the best. I mean, he might be the best offensive player on this roster, but he's certainly the best running back. He's better than Jalen Berger, who was a transfer in last year. Yeah, I mean, Nathan Carter could be like a really good player for this offense. So, I mean, these are all players that I think fill different roles, but can be legitimate breakout candidates.
There are still people who drafted Jalen Berger in like the second round of freshman drafts thinking that he was the next Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin. Listen, if you are a Pirates fan,
he was not good like as a freshman. Like he was like he's like a mummy.
If there is a podcast in the country that talks about two ECU players, that's not a East Carolina specific college football podcast, show it to me. So if you are a ECU fan, you better subscribe to this channel. Listen, this is hard because I like to talk about players that nobody's talking about. That's like impossible now. Between the recruiting guys, between the official, between Mike and Corey on Back to Devi, it's just hard to mine for players who are nobody's discussing.
Notice he didn't say Colin Decker. Notice he did not say Colin Decker.
Colin Decker. But I get myself in trouble when I dig too deep and I say guys like Brian Batey, who has been one of the guys who, to be honest, I mean, Brian Batey has been a good college football player. So
oh my God.
Necessarily.
He's 170 pounds. Let's just move on.
That's probably generous too.
But,
right. He's probably 150 just hanging out at the.
I'm not going to dig that deep. I want to say Oklahoma running back Gavin Sawchuk, who looked excellent in the spring game, and Javante Barnes has been hurt. They lose Eric Gray, so somebody needs to step up there. He's more of a speed guy. Matt Bruning has been a fan of his, and you think about what Jeff Levy wants to do. He wants to run these RPOs, or at least that's what he did at Ole Miss. I think that especially if Dylan Gabriel or, quite frankly, Jackson Arnold, both of those guys can be assets in the run game, and quarterbacks who take linebackers away from focusing on the running back are assets to the running back. So I'm going to say Gavin Sawchuk, but I think that there could be another player in this Oklahoma backfield that is not Javante Barnes who could potentially step up. Austin, I know you like Caleb is it Hicks?
Yeah,
Hicks. Yeah, Caleb Hicks. Played at I think Denton, Texas. They're a player with a low center of a bigger body with a low center of gravity, kind of explosive. But for right now, I'm going to say Gavin Sawchuk. But to be honest with you, I was looking at my list and like, who's a guy? I can't say Jaquindon Jackson. I can't say Justice Haynes. I mean, these guys that we've already talked about. I don't think I've ever touted Gavin Sawchuk. I've left that to Matthew. But since he's not here, I'll do it on his behalf. So let's move here to the wide receiver position. Austin, who you guys breakouts at wide receiver?
Yeah, you guys have some good lists. I went Keegan Johnson, who Mike has been hyping up lately. He is a third-year receiver. He started his career at Iowa and was actually pretty good as a true freshman at Iowa.
350 yards, baby.
Which is a lot for their 1920 style offense. He's going to Kansas State. Kansas State loses their top 2 wide receivers and 3 of their top 4 receivers overall, if you include Deuce Vaughn in there. Between these 3 guys, the 48, 725 and 2, 46, 456 and 5, and 42, 378 and 3. That doesn't sound like a lot, but last year they only completed 242 passes as a team for just under 3,000 yards and 21 touchdowns. So just between those 3 players, losing over 50% of their receptions, yardage, and touchdowns. So I think Johnson can step in there and be pretty solid for them from day one. And I think he probably leads them in receiving and an offense that I think is probably better passing this year without having to deal with Adrian Martinez for at least half the year. And the other one, I do think it's JoJo Earl's year as long as he stays healthy. I think he'll lead TCU in receiving. I think we finally get that JoJo Earl year that we've been expecting, and I think he probably goes day 2 in the NFL, like similar to like a Wan'Dale Robinson did.
I agree with that. Yeah, that actually makes sense to me. For those who've not seen JoJo Earl play, Dante Hall, old Kansas City Chiefs punt returner and wide receiver. That is how he moves. If he could just stay healthy, he did start in the spring game. So
he's taller. He's taller, Rondale Moore.
Yeah.
I mean, like Dante Hall, Rondale Moore, like that. Like that's the player, right?
Also, I don't know how tall Dante or
wait. Was. Dante Hall is probably like 5'9" or so, but Rondale Moore was 5'7". You're saying he's taller Rondale Moore. I think of Rondale Moore as being a line of scrimmage player. I think that
I also think JoJo can work downfield a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a little. I don't know. I feel like it's restrictive or like to you're kind of confining him to a single role when I think he's a little more versatile than that person.
I agree. Was TCU a good landing spot for JoJo Earl, Austin?
I mean, it would probably feel a little better if they had gone into the portal and gotten someone a little more experienced to run that team with Dugan leaving. But I think Chandler Morris is okay. I think that conference they'll be fine to chuck it around a little bit. I'm not expecting like 1,500 yards or anything out of the kid, but I think, not 950 and a handful of touchdowns is well within kind of an average range of outcomes for him, assuming he stays healthy. And some of his injuries have been like weird injuries. Like it's not like it's like he just keeps pulling his hamstring or something. Like he got like a weird shoulder injury year 1. Was that what it was or something on like a kick return or punt return? And then I forget what the other injury was, but it's not. I mean, I wouldn't call him like a guy that's just had these muscular injuries. It's been weirder stuff. So I'm a little more willing to write those off and ignore them when projecting for this year.
Main Event is in the chat. He says the thoroughness of this pod is next level. Thank you very much, Main Event. Let's not forget JoJo Earl, the class of 2020 at Alabama. You had a guy called Corey Brooks and JoJo Earl. Those were the five-star wide receivers. JoJo Earl was not there in the spring. It was a guy Hall who had the big spring game that season. And then JoJo Earl was the one who started. Well, he didn't start. He split playing time with Blake. What's his name? What was the slot wide receiver, the white slot wide receiver at Alabama? His name?
Slade Bolden.
Slade Bolden.
He threw me off with Blake. I was like, who the hell is Blake?
Yeah.
I just threw out some generic white
We're
name.
just making up white people names.
Braden.
Blake, Braden.
Slade Bolden. He split time with Slade Bolden early in that season and was returning kicks. So for him not to be there in the summer, or not to be there in the spring, and then earn a spot in the summer. Blake Welch is in the chat. He's laughing at us. So, but no, this is a very good player who just hasn't been healthy, hasn't had the opportunity. He could be one of the more explosive after the catch wide receivers that we have in college football. He absolutely could. I just have one here, and it's Arian Smith for the reasons that I talked about before. The best compliment to running the ball is speed on the outside, because you get safety that spin down, you get 8 in the box to have them start to stop the run. That means you have one-on-one on the outside. And from what I've seen from Carson Beck, he's going to be an excellent deep ball thrower, especially if there's like one safety there and he's got just one high. It's going to be very easy for him to get the ball out there. We've known Arian Smith is like, this elite level sprinter. He just hasn't. I mean, he's had so many injuries his first 2 seasons, or his first 3. I can't even remember what first 3 seasons. First 3 seasons had an excellent the playoff game versus Ohio State last year. Man, if he could just stay on the field, he's the perfect complement for what they want to do. Pound the rock, run play action, throw it over the top to somebody who can create lots of separation deep. So I think that if he can stay healthy in 2023, Arian Smith is like the type of player that you can see get elevated to the second round. We just saw Jalen Hyatt do nothing his first 2 years. And then because of that speed, where was he? Was he drafted in the third round?
Third round, yeah.
The third round. You can see a similar ascent for Arian Smith. And Arian Smith is not like a fake speedster if he's healthy. He's a real speedster. Jalen Hyatt, what did he run? Like a 4.4? 4.4 is not even.
Oh, Arian Smith.
Aaron Smith is like a legitimate speed guy.
If Arian Smith is healthy, he would go way above.
Third or second or third round after not doing much his first year. So that's
I was a huge Arian Smith fan coming out of high school, and people forget how good that Georgia recruiting class was that year. And I just wonder what had happened if you took those 4 and you had sent them to a different school, what the outcome would have been. Because Georgia really hasn't done well developing those guys. But between him, Jermaine Burton, Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, who I absolutely loved coming out of high school, and there was a 4th one in there too. And they were all really highly rated kids who looked really, really good. And Georgia has done literally nothing with any of them. Just embarrassing.
Arian Smith is the type of player who can potentially rise above the Georgia situation and just be like, hey, I'm fast as shit.
He might have 40 catches, but have 800-900 yards on 40 catches.
He might go round 3 just because he's the fastest receiver in the class, which he might be just because he's that dude.
Which is why I don't really understand the Dominic Lovett stuff. I think it's got to be one or the other.
I didn't have Dominic Lovett as a breakout.
No. I'm just saying, why did they go get him? I guess it's because Arian Smith's always hurt. Well, they play different positions. They play different in different areas of the field. Do they? I don't think
a
Lovett,
way.
I don't think Lovett does much.
I'm running Arian Smith on 9 routes. Dominic Lovett, I'm running on slants and bubble screens and stuff to get catch after the. You don't. That's not what you.
I would not run Dominic Lovett on a bubble screen.
Personally. Yeah, I was gonna say it's the same thing. I just don't think that's his game.
So you don't think that Randall Cobb is the comp for Dominic Lovett? No. Okay, but
that's why I don't get the Dominic Lovett big hype, because I think he's kind of a deep guy that doesn't he benefited a lot from finding soft spots in coverage last year on some of these deep routes where things were cleared out a little bit. He doesn't stack deep that well. I don't think he's that great after the catch.
Can I give a mean comp for Dominic Lovett? James Washington.
I liked James Washington more in college than I liked Dominic Lovett.
James Washington, that's a good comp for Dorian Singer, in my opinion.
Dorian Singer. I think Dorian. Well, I was gonna say I think
James Washington was a
maybe not
wide receiver at Oklahoma State. That's
James Washington was a faux deep threat who was actually a deep threat.
Which is exactly what Dorian Singer is.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad. I mean, if James Washington isn't a bad player, if you can sell it. I have wide receivers if we want to talk about some breakouts, by the way.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay. That's cool. Let's
hear him, Chris.
All right. Oh, well, now I'm gonna be made fun of now.
No, Chris, we really want to hear him. We really do. Come on, buddy. I'm sorry.
Okay. Odu Hilaire, who is a wide receiver at Bowling Green. So I have talked to people who are at least familiar with the NFL draft process, who have said they think he might be the best receiver in G5 this year, which is fairly interesting to me. I always thought he was pretty good, for coming from Alabama A&M. But Odu Hilaire is from Bowling Green is a player that I have find myself drafting a lot. I wanted to tab Keon Coleman as a breakout, but I think last year kind of solidified that he was actually pretty good. So I think I would be not doing a good service. Barry Jackson is the other player that I want to highlight. Wide receiver at Cincinnati.
You're making up names.
No, he's a wide receiver at Cincinnati, a freshman wide receiver who was probably the most impressive receiver throughout their spring football camp. Like a really, really good player and featured heavily on the first team offense. So Barry Jackson, Odu Hilaire, and Gan Coleman where he's available. Like those are all players that I really want to probably be investing in.
Odu Hilaire, Bowling Green, coached by my former camp counselor, Scott Leffler. Scott with 1 T, Chris Moxley. You are really you're making it. Listen, folks, if you don't recognize these names, don't feel bad because Chris put 2 out of 3 names that I've never heard of. So
I went very heavy G5, and I forgot that this was supposed to be a Debbie show from the beginning. So
Mike accuses us of being a college football show.
Oh yeah, the second best Debbie show on the feed. Very cool.
Go to Home Field right now. If you didn't listen to me before, I don't care if you are faxing something, stop it. Stop it right now. Go to Home Field, use our promo code Campus2Canton, and buy at least $1 or $2 million worth of product using our promo code. Is there anything else, boys? The CFF guide should be available by the time you listen to us for pre-order at campus2canton.com. We appreciate you listening. That's going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Street. We ran out of time. We'll get them rescheduled soon. For Austin Nace and Chris Moxley, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.